We went into the locker room to change, and there was a boy. You gotta stand up for what you said you were gonna do.
So we are at the West Virginia State Capitol today with Miss Nila Thompson, who's going to tell us her amazing story and the battle that she's been going through to protect herself and her fellow students at the Capitol High School. So first off, if you want to say your name, your grade, just the basics about you.
Okay, I'm Nila Thompson. I'm 17. I go to Capitol High School.
Very cool. And so if you just want to go ahead and tell your story, just what you've been going through, what first happened at your school that led to your stand, and then the things you've been doing with legislators and all that. So go ahead.
Okay, so at the beginning of the school year, I was in a dance class, and the first day we went into the locker room to change, I went in there and there was a boy, and he wasn't changing, and so I didn't change, and I instead texted my mom, and I told her the problem. And she went to the principal immediately. And the solution the following day was for any uncomfortable girls to go into the boys' locker room instead of, because it was unoccupied during that class period. So then I dropped the class, and my mom and I went to, and adding to that, it was a few days that I was in the locker room without changing, and over the span of the few days, he was in there not changing and watching the other girls change.
So he wasn't changing, he was in there just watching you guys?
Not once, yeah. So we went to the Kanawha County School Board, and we spoke at a meeting, and we talked about our issues. And they didn't respond that day. They have an opportunity to at the end, and they didn't. And then a month later, I think it was the very next meeting, they said to the group that was there, when me and my mom, neither of us were there, but they said that they responded to us, messaged us somewhere, they didn't specify, that they provided another solution. So my mom looked on her email, her phone number, there was nothing from them. So she goes and she asks them, where?
Yeah.
And they didn't answer, so maybe they made that up, I don't know. And then nothing happened really, he stayed in there. Then just last month, me and my mom both spoke at the Capitol on the House floor to talk about House Bill 5243, which is the bill restricting women's facilities to women. It seems to be moving along. It passed the House, so that's good.
Yeah, definitely.
And I did get a good bit of support from Delegate Krause and Delegate Fast, who was like the facilitator of the thing, of the meeting. He seemed to be engaged in listening to what I had to say. And Delegate Kimball was also very invested. Delegate Krause is the lead sponsor of the bill.
Okay, so they've been the ones kind of pushing the bill through, making sure it doesn't die. Great, that's awesome. So then you said that this guy has just been in the girls' locker room still. Is this still a problem that your female classmates are having to deal with who are in that class?
Yeah.
So they've yet to do anything, and they won't hear anything. They heard you guys speak, but they've not made any changes. It's crazy. So how big is your school?
I think there's around 320 students in my class, so.
Wow. And then the high school, is it just through like 9th through 12th grade? And then, so you told me beforehand, before we started the interview, that your school is pretty liberal leaning. Is that most of the facilities liberal, or not facilities, the faculty, most of the faculty's liberal, or most of the student body's liberal, or both?
Yeah.
Both. So you're kind of fish out of water across the board.
Yeah.
Well, definitely thank you for taking this stand, especially in a place where it's so hostile to do so. Not necessarily hostile, but it's easier for some of us when we're in a rural school. We've got friends who support and agree with this stuff, but when you're by yourself. So that does bring me to my next question. Have you had any friends who are supportive of you and have stood with you and who've been openly supportive?
Well, in the beginning, I kind of went into it alone because I didn't want to talk to any of my friends and seem like I was just like gossiping about what's happening, or like,
right.
And I wanted to be smart about how I went about it.
Sure.
So then once it started to gain more traction, some of my friends, just one of my friends has really spoken to me about it. She saw me on the news or something, and she said, I didn't know that he was like in there being weird. And, you know, just from her, yeah.
Well, that's good. But for the most part, you've not had a huge outcry of support. What about from faculty? Do you have any teachers who have been supportive or have heard what's going on and have been openly helpful?
Nobody's been helpful, but I did have one teacher at the beginning of the year. I think it was right after the board meeting. She came up to me and she said that she saw me and that was, I think she said it was brave, but that was kind of
That can be taken one way or the other, yeah. Well, it definitely was brave in a good way. So your teachers, the ones, so they've not said very much. Have there been any that have been openly hostile towards you, have been more negative in the way they've treated you because you've done all this?
No, I can't really say that there has been.
That's good. That's good. And you've not received, you know, a ton of, I mean, other than the regular online trolls, for the most part, you've not had much hatred, I guess, in your way because of this?
No, I know about like at least a group of people that have been talking about me, and that's to other people. That's the only way that I know about it.
Yeah.
But really, it's nothing crazy.
Sure, sure. So then you name the politicians and the legislators who have been openly supportive, especially here on the House floor. Are there others who have been, maybe not even from this state, but just in the United States, who have seen what's going on with you and have been supportive? Or has it mostly been contained to West Virginia so far, news-wise?
Yeah, just West Virginia.
And then, so this is unfortunately something that's happening in, it seems like, a new school every day here in the United States, especially in liberal areas, which is kind of surprising considering we're here in Charleston and it is a city, but it's still one of the most Republican states, so it is surprising. But as more schools and more students face this challenge, do you have any advice for them, especially for girls who are in this situation?
Yeah, I mean, for anyone, just, you can't be afraid. Like, and it really doesn't make sense to be afraid because, I mean, it's not that bad. I mean, you lose some people, but then if you lose them, who were they to you in the first place? And for public figures, you know, you got to stand up for what you said you were going to do. You gotta serve the people.
Definitely.
And for girls, just like if you're in sports, don't compete. Like if you see that there's a boy on the opposite team, collectively as a team, that would be great if you don't compete. But if it's just you, don't compete. And if there's a boy on your team, don't play.
Yeah.
Or if there's a girl in your locker room,
drop out.
Yeah. I mean, a boy in your locker room, sorry.
I understand what you're saying. You mentioned sports, just a fun question. Do you play, so you said you play softball, what else do you play? Is that your big one?
I don't play softball anymore. I did gymnastics competitively for a while, and that's really like, when you do that sport, that's all you can do.
Sure.
So.
Well, it's very cool. Thank you so much for being a part of the interview and just sharing your story. And we want to make sure that you are seen by as many people as possible, because there are a lot of young conservatives or young people who have conservative beliefs, or not even conservative, just normal. Like, guys should not be in the girls' locker room and vice versa. That's not even conservative. It used to be, but it's just normal now. It should be. And there's a lot of them, but they're just afraid to speak up because they think they're alone. And it's great for you to be able to show that they're not. So, thank you.
Thank you.